We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, but today doesn't feel that way. We are divided in more ways than one, and the media and the powers that be all have their own agenda. The people of this great nation no longer care about the truth, they only care about the side they are on. At Poor 360, I am trying to change that. We're bringing you the facts and history so we can all learn something and make our own decisions. Tune in every Tuesday to be a part of that journey. The following
is a journey into comics.
Journey into comics.
It's a journey into comics.
It's a journey into comics.
Journey into comics.
Journey into comics.
Network.
Production.
Went forward in time to view alternate futures, to see all the possible outcomes of the coming conflict.
How many did you see?
14,605,000.
How many did we win?
One.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Journey into Comics, the podcast that's dedicated to everything nerd. With your host, the Podfather himself, Nate Phillips, and introducing his new co-host, Tyler McLaughlin.
You should have gone for the head.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of Journey into Comics. It's JIC 254. I am your host, Nate. Today, joining me, as always, my main man. Welcome back once again. You guys know him and love him. He's also a co-host of Podcastrophe every Thursday on the Journey into Comics Network. Welcome back, Tyler.
I'm the living embodiment of Wreck-It Ralph without the giant hands.
Yeah, you are. I think that'd be a great cosplay for you. I just want to say it again. Like, I think I've said it like 3 times already. We've cold opened with something to this effect, but
I think
for real, man, you're gonna wreck it.
I think for Halloween this year, that's what we are gonna do. Skylar's gonna be Fix-It Felix, and then Ruby's gonna be Vanellope von Schweetz, and then
That's fucking incredible.
I've just got to get some crazy hair and some fucking brown bibs and a plaid shirt, man. I've got it.
Home run, easy.
You know, normally I would say, like,
just because you're.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, just because you're a bad guy does not mean you're a bad guy.
I've said it before, but like that whole fucking monologue when he's rocketing towards the Mentos volcano, like, it gets me every time.
Oh man, it's so good.
But like,
it's so good.
Normally,
anyways, folks, welcome. Go ahead.
we are struggling today.
No, we're just riffing, and that's fine. I just wasn't sure where we were. I wasn't sure where we were transitioning.
Normally,
so just trying to stay.
Normally,
light on my
when
feet.
you introduce me, I would say like, "Hey Nate, how are you doing?" And like the whole time you were starting that intro, the only thing I could think of in my mind was, man, I really am like Wreck-It Ralph without the big fist.
To respond to you, I am well. Thank you for asking, I guess. You didn't really ask,
well,
but
see,
sure. You kind of did.
Here's the thing, like, I really wanted to, but like, I had that idea, like, so ingrained into my mind right at that moment that I couldn't allow myself to say anything other than what I did. So
you were fixated, man. You were just there in the moment. You were feeling it. And sometimes, and you know this in the podcasting world, you get queued up to say something and you're just like, I'm going to say it. I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't care if somebody says something that's completely off topic. I'm going back to
totally
what I
irrelevant,
say.
man.
Like, fuck you. I'm going. We're going there right now, you know. So, how's it going with you, man? What's up? What's good in your world?
It's been a busy weekend full of work and movies. I mean, I watched, you know, I told you a little bit pre-show. Skylar and I watched Us yesterday, which was incredible. We watched Pet Sematary this afternoon, which was awful. And that's the new Pet Sematary, not the original. And then this morning we also took Ruby to see The Lion King, which I was pretty just disappointed overall.
I even cautioned to ask, how bad was it?
Well, see, here's the thing. Like, this is not in the same. It's not in the same vein as my distaste of Toy Story 4. The live action adaptation, if you can call it that, of The Lion King.
I mean, it's animated CGI, but I vibe you.
It's 1-for-1, almost identical with the original movie. Obviously it's animated. It's CGI now instead of cartoons and storyboards and bullshit.
Do their mouths move, or is it like a telepathic
the mouths
thing?
move. Just not like not like they did when they were cartoons. It's kind of weird. Like, that's one of the things I struggle with at the beginning of the movie, because it just looked like animals doing what they would normally do.
Like Mr. Ed?
Kind of, yeah. just slightly better. Not a whole lot, but just slightly. It's basically the original movie, and I think that's what a lot of people are complaining about online anyway, is that it's so much a copy of the original movie that it didn't hit them the same way that the original one did. My aunt accompanied us today. She took me to see The Lion King when it came out originally. So, it was a very rewarding experience for her to sit in the theater with me or my daughter and I, all three of us together. It's kind of a generational thing. And I wasn't
it's a full
impressed.
Circle.
Mm-hmm. It's that whole fucking circle of life. It's almost like it's relevant to the movie. It just didn't do it. I mean, like, Beyonce's role as Nala was so hyped going into the film. She has like 10 lines of dialogue. What? Why would you cast somebody like Beyonce as a supporting character and then hype up a performance? The whole movie. Like, Favreau did a fantastic job. It was incredible. The cinematography and
of course he would. Jon Favreau is amazing.
And the CGI was flawless. I didn't really care for Seth Rogen as Pumbaa at first, but towards the end it was pretty comical. I can't remember the guy who they cast as Timon, but that was not good.
Timon was Billy
Crystal in the original movie.
Billy Eichner, the guy from Billy on the Streets. Have you ever seen that show on True TV? He just goes up to people and asks random stupid fucking questions and then runs off or shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
That guy.
I mean, it wasn't awful by any means. It just, I think nostalgia kind of takes precedent over what the modern Lion King is. I think if you ask anybody in our age group, if we're going to sit down and watch The Lion King, which one are we going to watch? We're going to watch the original, Mm-hmm.
It's more personal. It's what we grew up with. This new thing, and I mean, maybe this new thing is for a new generation, and in some ways, you got to appreciate it. I know there was a director, God, I can't think of his fucking name. You could probably Google the shit, because it's the guy who directed the 1997 or 96 remake of Psycho. Okay, so he was under a lot of flack as well, because he did shot-for-shot Psycho. Because his thinking was, and this is where he was coming from, so I'm kind of understanding Jon Favreau's vision here a little bit differently and kind of expanding upon it, but like, this guy who directed Psycho, he essentially... Oh, it's the guy that directed Good Will Hunting. Can't think of his fucking name, but the guy that directed Good Will Hunting, the next movie he did, they said, any movie you want to do, what is it? Mm-hmm. He does Psycho. He did it shot for shot the same, because in his opinion, he's like, Psycho's such a cool fucking movie, but kids nowadays in the 90s aren't going to jive with a black and white film. They're not going to get it. It's not going to hit them the same, because it's not their world. So he thought, if I go exact and just recreate it, there's something special to that. And I think, Nightmare on Elm Street did that. Not to the same success, but there was like the 2010 remake with Katie Cassidy and Jackie Earle Haley, the guy that played Rorschach. But, maybe I kind of get where Favreau's coming from, because like, how do you fuck with the
Right.
Lion King and not tell the exact same story and not piss a lot of people off? Like, I think it's a damned if you do, almost damned if you don't situation. If you don't make the exact same movie, you're gonna have because I'm sure there are people like, fuck yeah, he just did the same movie and it was awesome to see it like real life, you know? I'm sure there are people like that out there, but there are also people that are like, what the fuck? I spent my money on this? If I want to feel Lion King, I'm going to fucking go home and watch it on my
Right.
Blu-ray, which I have on fucking Blu-ray,
Yeah.
motherfuckers.
I mean, James Earl Jones as Mufasa, a lot of his lines changed or were slightly modified, and that's totally okay, you know? He was flawless like J.E.J. always is.
Butter. He's solid butter.
But it was satisfying, just not. It's like it's kind of like biting into a Big Mac, and then you get like all the way to the end, like the last bite, and you're like, hey, there was no Big Mac sauce on this fucking sandwich. So is it really a Big Mac? You know what I
That'd be
mean?
so sad.
Yeah.
No, it's not
So,
really a Big Mac.
I was really, you know, not that this is relevant to comics in any way, but I think we talk about how movies are shot and how movies perform enough on this show that it is totally relevant, especially that Favreau's involved with it, you know. Watching movies like the last two adaptations of The Jungle Book, you know, you have the first one that Favreau did, and I can't remember I can't remember really anybody else involved other than the actors. But you know, I thought Favreau really hit it home with The Jungle Book, and then Andy Serkis follows that and does his version or his rendition of The Jungle Book, and I thought both of those were flawless. You know, what more?
Mowgli, right? That was his version, was Mowgli. Right.
I mean, you know, that was kind of the same scenario. You know, you're like, Mowgli was a little bit different than the traditional Jungle Book story, but you know, Favreau's version was almost one for one identical as well. And I don't remember any fan outcry from that. I think Lion King is just so important to our generation. You know, for the majority of us, that's the first big, like the first big motion picture that we saw in theaters, let alone the first big Disney movie. You know, besides like Toy Story or A Bug's Life.
I definitely saw Aladdin in theaters, 1992.
Yeah,
I remember that.
I did not. Lion King.
But I'm a little bit older than you, so obviously.
So I don't know. Like part of the reason I wanted to bring this up, and I apologize for being long-winded as I normally am, but early last week.
No, we love it long-winded here.
You love it long time, but early
We love you a long time.
early last week I saw an article that was the user and the critic scores of The Lion King on Rotten Tomatoes. And, you know, Rotten Tomatoes is a big point of controversy on this show. And the critic score at that time, I think, was like 93 or 94% certified fresh. The fan reviews were like 34% rotten. I mean, fans just shit all over it, you know, because it was the same movie.
Wow, that bad, huh? Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, and listen, Jon Favreau is a phenomenal director. He's a great actor. You know, he's got his hands in kind of everything. You know, it's really interesting. When you brought this up, you bring me to a really interesting point that's going to blow your fucking load. I don't even know if you know this, and it's huge comic book news. You've heard the first name officially attached to Venom 2.
Refresh me. Because as soon as you said that, my brain fucking blanked.
Well, check it out. The first person that has been asked as a possible director for Venom 2 is Andy Serkis.
Yes. Okay, I remember seeing that now. Yep. Big fan.
So, what do you think of this news?
Totally super stoked. Please let Andy Serkis direct Venom. Not that I really had any qualms with the first film. I just really dig Andy Serkis in general. You know, whether it's his perspective as a performer, or it like for me right now, my three favorite guys in Hollywood are Jon Favreau, Jordan Peele, and Andy Serkis, because they've spent enough time behind the camera and in front of it to know what is going to be the best of every facet of filmmaking, and they all do their own unique thing. And I've said it for a while on this show. In regards to Favreau, if you're anyone involved in Marvel, Disney, or Star Wars, or all three together, the one man that you want involved all the time is either Jon Favreau or Taika Waititi, I feel like. So if you're going to bring another heavy hitter in with Andy Serkis, and obviously this is Sony with Venom, but I mean that's a huge power play, and if he is, if the rumors are true, that's big. You get somebody like Andy Serkis that's so visceral in kind of the his style or his direction, and you bring Carnage into the mix, man, that's going to be fucking incredible.
Well, and I mean, those two things combined with a very important third thing, with the other news that goes super in tandem with this conversation, Spider-Man Far From Home, bro, broke $1 billion. Blowing people's minds. Everybody's out to see it. It kind of rides the wave of success that is Endgame, and with all these other announcements coming, people are just hyped as fuck to see it, But, like, Andy Serkis attached to Venom. Andy Serkis is already good with Disney. He's already Ulysses Claw. He's already done tons of shit for them. Let's go. He's going to help them. Amy Pascal's going to listen now and go, oh, yeah, we need to take your direction because we can make Venom $1 billion
Absolutely.
movie. We can make Venom 2 $1 billion movie. And now, here's one thing. There's no question in my mind at this point, Tyler. There will never be a time Marvel does not have control of Spider-Man now. Even though Sony is part of this deal and it's like kind of this weird special tandem where their little kid brother gets to be a part of the deal or some shit, but like, with Marvel knocking it out of the fucking park with Far From Home and it making that kind of money, it just literally said, like, we did it better than you ever could.
Yeah, I totally agree. Very well said. The tough thing about it is, though, Sony, I feel like between that, I really like the way that you put that big brother, little brother kind of dynamic. I feel like Sony has the better end of the deal because Sony
do. They didn't come up with the character.
Sony is letting Marvel make them money. They don't have to put forth any of the work.
Yeah, that's a fucking easy gig.
And I feel like that's why Venom struggled for a lot of people. Is Sony didn't have Marvel there to put in the work.
And there's a lot of things that I think Marvel would have said no to in that movie. I don't think it would have been the same script at all. I don't really know how happy they are that Tom Hardy is Venom, but you know what? At this point, like I said, when I think about Venom, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. You and I had a discussion on 66, Podcast 66 or whatever it was that I was on, where, we went back and forth about it, and I aired my grievances, and I've said why I didn't like Venom. I don't need to sit here and rehash all that shit. But more importantly, I do like Tom Hardy. He is starting to turn me into this guy that I'm kind of becoming a little bit more favorable towards him, Not to say that I love everything he's done. But when I do look back on some of his movies, I'm just like, okay, man, you put in the work. And then when I think about, and this I think what really changed my mind, the tandem of him and Tom Holland. Like, oh man, buddy, it's gonna be something special.
Well,
you know?
I'm a Tom Hardy fan. Not a fanboy by any means, but as far as Venom is concerned, one thing that I really appreciated from that first movie, going into it before I'd even seen it, was Tom Hardy was adamant that he was going to play Eddie Brock and do the voice of Venom. You know, to in your mind, you know, especially for us that grew up with the animated series, you know, or any, you know, any media, I guess, that is involved in Venom, we have Venom's voice in our head. And Tom Hardy's was a little bit different and maybe not as organic as, you know, it normally would have been. But he put in the work, and he made it sound like Venom, you know? Or at least...
Yeah, it was just his own
or at
twist.
least a believable Venom. You know, it wasn't like T-Pain auto-tune. Like, okay, he put forth the same amount of effort playing Eddie Brock as he did doing the voice acting for Venom, and I appreciated that.
It was a hell of a lot better than his Bane.
Yes.
Let me just say that one time, Batman.
I'm talking to you through
You know?
a tin can. Ha ha ha.
But, oh, shit, man. But, I was going to go somewhere. I was going to spend somewhere out of this, you know, but I just think Andy Serkis directing a movie featuring Carnage, Venom, Tom Holland's Spider-Man to kind of cross it over. I already kind of laid it out to you what I would do in the movie, you know. The symbiote essentially sees Parker as the superior. And, you know, we already know the symbiote can split, so some of the symbiote or a new symbiote or whatever, however they decide to do it, it'll be Carnage. Venom is going to leave Eddie and go on his own quest, so Carnage and Eddie Brock are kind of having beef. That beef will spill into New York, where Eddie's trying to go to get a new job at the Bugle, you know, or with the Bugle and Jay Jonah, which maybe he's based in San Francisco. That'd be a clever way to just keep it in the universe and pull it all together, you know, because now, you know, you kind of have a rhyme and a reason. But then, you know, you do the obvious,
I think, you know, kind of the opposite of that. If you wanted to continue to make Venom a solo character, just do the Lethal Protector stuff, you know? Just continue for him to be an anti-hero and make solo movies like you have with Deadpool. Sprinkle in relevant characters as you can, you know. At some point, and I totally agree with you, at some point you're going to have to include Spider-Man. Because Venom is a complex and, you know, heavily written about character and a heavily featured character in all of Marvel Comics. I mean, he's got just about as many crossover events, or I guess I should say the symbiote has just about as many crossover events as any other character in Marvel Comics. At some point, to continue for Venom to be relevant today, you have to include Spider-Man. He can't do his own thing forever. So I would definitely lean more towards kind of your story that you've spun, because it just makes sense. You know, Venom's a character that you don't have to really get out of the box with. Just have it make sense, and then write a good story, and everything will fall into place. Fans will eat it up. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see. On a side note, I would really like to see more Claw going forward in the MCU, because his character in Age of Ultron and Black Panther was fucking fantastic.
I think he's going to have something to do with Black Panther 2 as being a more deadly protagonist. Before we get into my predictions on Black Panther 2, because I do have a couple, I do really quickly want to say, talking about Venom, that you would actually go an even smarter route. You know, Eddie flees to New York. He knows realizes the symbiote's there. He's getting the gig or whatever. Carnage shows up. He's having to fight Carnage. Spider-Man's there. Spider-Man's getting his ass kicked by Carnage. And Eddie's like, listen, kid, you have to give me the fucking symbiote. You have to give it up. Only I can do this, you know? He gives him the symbiote, you know, Venom comes and beats ass, so he has the anti-hero yet again, just kind of like how you want. He saves the day for a minute, and then he looks at Spider-Man and says, we've got business and I ain't finished with you yet. Mm-hmm. And that's the end of the movie, and you leave it on a cliffhanger so you don't get their full battle. It's just building to that moment. You know, really make it impactful if you're going to do it that way.
The only really obstacle, I think, you know, going forward in this Venom franchise, you know, Carnage is towards the top of the list. You've got probably the heaviest hitter and one of, you know, one of Venom and Spider-Man's biggest adversaries in Carnage, because he's so ruthless and visceral, and he just wants to fucking maim and kill everything, you know, and he's so powerful because he does have the symbiote. I mean, do you think it's wise to go straight for Carnage this early on, or do you think that they don't really need to build up?
Well, you're not building the Venomverse. I just want to keep it real. It's all going to go to Spider-Verse. It's all going into Spider-Man and what his story is. 2 movies, 3 movies max for Venom. Seriously, you're going to get a great story, and Eddie doesn't have to die at the end of the movies. He doesn't have to not be a hero. He can be unresolved as fuck and then be a wild card. You need that for Spider-Man. You need a moment where he's battling somebody you totally have forgot Venom exists. Bam! Venom punches him in the fucking mouth and says, hey, we got to talk. This is what's going on, you know? And it's a dose of reality to Parker. Like, oh, shit. I have to just keep dealing with you. Like, it's not over. It's never over. This will never be over. That's the kind of thing you need in a big Spider-Man villain, and Venom is the right one to do it because he is an alien from outer space. And it helps, you know, one of the most beautiful things about that is that Tom Hardy as Venom, as he ages, it doesn't really matter. They can have him play it for as long as he wants because he'll always go CGI into the character, you know?
And one thing, too, that I think would be really, really interesting to see kind of play out is, you know, after the symbiote begrudgingly goes back to Eddie Brock, you know, Spidey can't sense him anymore with his Spidey sense, you know, the Peter tingle. So that builds a lot of drama and, you know, makes conflict going forward if you're going to include Venom as a nagging antagonist, you know, in any number of films.
Absolutely, man. And look, I mean, you and I are just sitting here riffing, and we put together something that's good and believable, and you know that Marvel will bring out something 10 times better than this if their hand is involved in Venom 2 in any way, shape, or form. You know, that is all still remains to be seen if we will get that, but, you know, moving forward, we look at the MCU, you know, I wanted to ask you this. Do you agree with me on this? And it'll never happen. But is Jordan Peterson, or is Jordan Peele the right guy to direct Blade?
I think so. I do.
He does the horror stuff, okay?
Mm-hmm. I think.
So I
think with his style of cinematography and how passionate he is of the genre, Blade will be more a horror film than a superhero movie. It'll just be a horror film from the point of view of a superhero or an anti-hero, you know. And I think, you know, his ability to, you know, he's so passionate about the horror genre, his ability to meld horror and comedy, but so subtly, and then still make it a superhero movie. You know, I don't see any reason why, you know, I would consider anyone else over Jordan Peele. You know, not to say that there's not better directors out there, because, you know, as Qui-Gon Jinn says in Episode 1, there's always a bigger fish. But I think, what do you have to lose by giving, one of the, how do I want to phrase it? One of the fastest growing directors as far as popularity goes in the industry.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you 100%. One thing that's going to stop him, though, is himself. Because famously, Jordan Peele said, I'm not going to do a superhero movie. I'm not into that. It's not what I want to do. There's 1,000 stories to be told and everything, and I've got other plans or whatever, and I only have so many movies I'm going to be able to make. However, you say that until when Blade got Mahershala Ali as their Blade, like, he's won the Oscar, man. He won the Oscar for Green Book, right? Like, when that happens, automatically you look to somebody like Jordan Peele, who has this humongous ability and amazing talent to frighten people in most bizarre ways. Having him tackle something that's vampire and supposed to be based in reality, he is the perfect fucking person to do it. He made it believable that old rich white people were stealing young black folks' bodies to live forever. That's some real horror shit. Zombies is not going to be that hard for him, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, other than Jordan Peele, I mean, are there any other rumors on who's going to direct Blade? I mean, because it's still a little bit far out, obviously.
I mean, there hasn't even been. I mean, even to say Jordan Peele's name is in the hat, it all is, I think, a little presumptuous.
Well, I thought it was funny. That you said that, because just a couple days ago I read an article that was basically, Jordan Peele should direct this movie because he said he wasn't going to direct this movie. And, I thought it was kind of funny. I didn't even need to reference the article.
Man, that's crazy. No, I just think, listen, you're gonna listen. I mean, maybe there are other names that could be put into Blade. Maybe it would be super odd or something if it was Wesley Snipes to direct it. I don't know that he's ever directed a movie, but you have to bring someone with their A game. And honestly, best in the biz right now, if you're Marvel and Disney, you're throwing all your money at Jordan Peele. Call him up and say, we will give you $1 billion, and just throw the money at him. He'll take it. There's no way you're turning that down. Hey, Tyler, would you like to direct this movie for $1 billion?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, of course. Because you're not going to question it, and you're going to be like, oh my God, I get to do something that maybe I secretly wanted to do, felt too much pressure to say that I wanted to do, and am now in a situation where I have an Oscar-winning actor at my fucking fingertips to play in this sandbox of one of the coolest fucking anti-hero fucking badasses to ever been birthed from Marvel.
One of the most adult characters for sure.
Yes, man. And we talked about it before. I love the original Blade trilogy. They're very near and dear to my heart. I'm excited for the future, though. I can't wait to see, and I've said it time and time again, everything Marvel throws at us, I'm just like, yes, please, yes.
Did you see the statement from Wesley Snipes the other day?
Thank you for... Do you have that up? I don't have it up.
But basically, it was...
Oh, shit.
Wesley Snipes telling fans to chill the fuck out and be really happy that the only other person in the industry that he would want to play Blade is going to play Blade. So, he's... From his words, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but he's got a lot of faith in...
I'm pulling it up right now, don't worry.
Yeah, okay. I'll just let Nate read it off because I'm not Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, of course it's a fucking video. I don't understand this. Why can't articles just be articles where I can read? It's 2019, man. Give me the option, bro. I'm not in the mood for your shit. Get out of here. I don't want to do that. I thought I had it pulled up. Now I feel like the asshole. See how that works, folks? The tides have turned on me. My name's Mahershala Ali. That rhymed. It was a good one.
Just lay it down, Nate. Also, I sent you something.
Fuck. Okay, here we go. Please tell me this is just an article. It's an article. It says article. It doesn't say video this time, folks. We found the article. Fucking A. So, Snipes' thoughts on Ollie's casting is this. To all the daywalkers losing their minds right now, chillax. Although the news comes as a surprise, it's all good. Such is the business of entertainment. Much peace to the MCU crew. Always a fan. So nah fret, nah worry. It's not the end of the story. And then he says, congratulations to Mahershala Ali for getting the role, and hopefully they'll work together someday. Welcome to the Daywalker clique.
No, I think, fans seeing, it's kind of like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, whoever they cast going forward as Wolverine. If Hugh Jackman reaches out to the community and that individual and says, "Hey, man, you've got my thumbs up," that's going to put a lot of people at ease, and seeing no animosity from Wesley Snipes is a big deal. So I'm excited.
Absolutely, of course. My first thought is you're going to get a Wesley Snipes cameo. Like, somehow, some way, they're going to bring him into that movie. It only makes sense. It's funny, though, that you mentioned... what did you just say? You nailed it. Oh, who the next Wolverine might be. Because I just read a report on fan castings that made sense. I thought about it, and I was like, oh, my God, that's a perfect casting. Do you know about this one?
Is it Egerton?
Taron Egerton, yeah. Or how did you say his name? I don't know his name. I'm not good at names.
I thought it was Egerton. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, Taron Egerton, I think. I can't, again, awful with the name, but here's the deal. He, it was fan cast as Wolverine, and you think about it, he's the guy from the Golden Circle, or the Kingsman movies, as it were. But his ability to act in those movies, there was another film I saw him in he was very good in. I think he just did Elton John Rocket Man, if my brain is... I feel like that is the same guy. Yeah, it is definitely the same guy. So, he has acting chops. There's no questions there. And everyone said Rocket Man was phenomenal, and that it's one of those definitely worth a watch type deals. But I think about it, and I just think that he's young enough, and he could get dark and into that role. Maybe Daniel Radcliffe is another name that comes to mind, possibly for the role of Wolverine. But ultimately, yeah, the guy from Kingsman, Taron Egerton, is gonna, if he were to be cast actually as Wolverine, I think we'll be all very happy as fans. I know maybe some people will be like, "Oh, that's dumb. He's in the Kingsman. We don't need him in this movie, too. That's a comic movie already." But for me, I think it's a smart choice.
I think, for me, at this point, almost... Because you're not going to replace Hugh Jackman. I mean, we've said it dozens of times on this show. You're just not. You're not going to be able to get that perfect replica of Hugh Jackman giving... or delivering the perfect performance as Wolverine in any of the iterations that he played in, whether it's, young Logan or old Logan, it doesn't matter. I mean, he is the best that we've ever had and the best that we ever will have. But I think, you don't have any incentive to not try someone else if Jackman's not going to come back to the role.
I just don't think Jackman is... He's not getting any younger, bro. And he's done this role for 20 fucking years. He can't you can't build a franchise that's going to supposedly carry our MCU's future into phases 6 and 7 and 8 and whatever, into the long-term shit if you can't keep your guy alive, man. So you got to find somebody young. You got to find somebody, and listen, honestly, here's my opinion. I've said it once, I'll say it fucking million times. I don't give a shit if I'm pissing people off. The first X-Men movie that Marvel does should not feature a Wolverine. It should feature the original team with Professor Charles Xavier, and towards the end of the movie or in the end credit scene or somewhere like that, they should stumble upon Weapon X, and that should be the basis for the second movie that'll be wrapped a lot sooner. It's not going to take the whole movie to get through, and then you can introduce other things in your second film. But, I think that you do not give the Wolverine card away in the first movie. Go a little bit old school. Make the fans enjoy kind of a blast from the past. The original team, Iceman, Beast, Marvel Girl, Cyclops, the Professor. Keep it breezy. And then you can introduce and find new mutants and have deeper, more impactful stories and create new worlds for the mutants to go, and speaking on that, I think that we might be gearing up for the mutants a lot sooner than people anticipate, and I think we're going to find out what the fate of the mutants holds in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I think we're going to, either at the end or something, I think we're going to get the start of House of M. And it'll be revealed, like it's going to get spilled over and they're going to do that, type thing. Because Wanda's going to have the powers now. She's going to know how to hone them. And she's going to have been spending time with the Sorcerer Supreme and have lost vision. And to speak on that, like, apparently WandaVision's going to be set in the 50s.
What?
Yeah, WandaVision set in the 1950s, apparently. So what I envision happening is this. It's probably going to be something like Wanda is freaking out and she creates the 1950s world that her and Vision live in, her perfect life. While she's tripped out of her mind and involved in that, which is going to be a small-scale start to House of M, because if she really wanted it to be her way, she'd bring her brother back, there'd be all these other changes. Again, Aaron Taylor Johnson, expect him back at some point as Quicksilver if she does House of M. But, she's going to create this world, and then while she's creating this world, things are going to fall apart on the regular timelines, the real world, and Monica Rambeau, who we know is the the future version, the older version of Spectrum, is going to be involved in some way. You're not going to have her in the 50s unless you send her into the dream or into the sequence. Maybe she is a vision that doesn't really exist until Wanda makes her exist, possibly. Oh, do you have an intruder?
Nope, just looking at something across the room.
Okay, sure. Big old spider. Oh, God. It's a dildo with legs.
It's Blaine.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God, dude. Shots fired. Whoa.
Ikey.
A dildo with legs. God, that should almost be the episode title, but it's a little bit abrasive for comic books.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm having my morning coffee on Monday. I don't need the episode title to be dildos, even though they're talking about dildos. I don't know why we're on dildos all of a sudden, but anyways, you brought up Blaine, so let's tangent just for a minute, because it's Monday on Journey into Comics Network. I hope you guys are enjoying your Monday here on the network. Just got through a great week, had a fixed thing happen with Dungeons with Dudes or whatever, but the thing I really want to get into is what's happening this Thursday on the network. It's very important that you guys are tuned in. On Tuesday, you can see the live stream on Podcastrophy's Facebook page. But you guys, the joke podcast that was some sort of teaser dropped way back in episode 52 of Journey into Comics is now hitting its 100th episode. And my main man, Tyler, here is, like I said earlier, a co-host of Podcastrophy. How does that feel, man? What's that like?
Well, I came in pretty early in the first 20 episodes, and, the first 20 or 30 episodes that I did as a co-host with Blaine, it was just every week it just felt good. We never ran out of stuff to talk about. And, towards the middle, in the mid-50s, you've talked about it previously that it's kind of a grind to get through, that...
It's the weirdest thing. It's the slowest time in podcasting. It is the only time it's
middle
that slow.
slump. And then, over the last year, I've had a lot of time that I've had to be on hiatus with school and work, and Blaine has trudged on and fought and kept going, and it's very rewarding. Not only to have made it 100 episodes as of Tuesday, but it's even more rewarding that if Blaine and I look back on those 100 episodes that we've done, the guests that we've had on, whether they were one-time people or original, Rollo the Destroyer being one of our favorite guests of all time, we tragically tragically lost here in the last couple months, and it just feels good that I've got to, because of that show, I've become a part of this network, and now I'm a part of this show, and I've made great friends who I now consider family, and it's been fun. I'm not ready for the ride to stop.
No, man, and there's, no reason, obviously. It has to stop. Look at me, 254 episodes of this motherfucking show, and the drank pepperonis all night long. I'm going to just keep trudging along, man. And you know what? It's for the love of podcasting more than anything. I learned a long time ago, I don't ever do the podcast really for anybody else but me, because it's a journal and a way to look back on my journeys and never forget, man. Like, my fucking grandma had Alzheimer's real bad. She don't remember the end of her life. She don't remember any of her life. She slipped into dementia when it was all said and done. If that were to ever happen to me, I would fucking hate it. But do you know what's really fucking rewarding? I'll always be able to listen back to these and never forget the times I had, because they're documented, So it's like live journaling in an outlet. And that's one thing I do find really beautiful about the medium. But, like, to see another show, yet again, here I am talking about this in some sort of fucking reflective ass shit. I don't mean to, but it's just like, when Journey into Comics did 100 episodes, our 100th episode was at a live fucking con, and it was a big deal, and we met MC Lars there, and it was like a crazy fucking whole thing. I met the voices of Rita Repulsa, Goldar, and Lord Zed, and interviewed them. It was amazing. I was too stupid to know to record that as well, and would have had an amazing podcast conversation. I was super green, and that's a learning, building block or whatever. But to see other shows, Game Addicts did it. They hit 100. Fucking super proud of those dudes. Thick and thin, thick as thieves. Like, seeing them hit 100 is amazing. Mm-hmm. But now, like, Dick has been Dick and Tyler both, and the Podcastrophe team, as it were, have been a pillar of this network since the beginning, since the jump. They're one of the flagship shows, literally. I mean, one of the shows that carried us through and through and through, and we've had all kinds of amazing times because of it. So, technically fucking speaking, fuck you, Dick, because you're like at 102 episodes, motherfucker, because you recorded that extra podcast with Walk Among Us that never aired, fucking Dick. And then I'm going to keep riding his ass on that one, because he's never going to release it, so I'm going to keep riding his ass on it till he finally gives in. And then the Fun for Fun's weird fucking political ass podcast we did at Fun for Fun's there at the Northern Pub. Neither of those have been released ever. Damn. So anyways, now that I've shamed Dick live on the podcast for a minute, which is always fun, it's just super cool, man. I'm really proud of you guys and the work you guys have put forth. And had there's so many hours of content. I really wish Dick would put together like a highlight reel of some of the funniest and best moments, but that would require more than 30% now.
Him and I have brainstormed in the last couple months, especially after we lost Rollo. Blaine put together a highlight reel of Rollo the Destroyer, and that felt really good, especially, a lot of those episodes that we had Richard on were, a couple of them were over 3 hours long. That's a lot of time that we spent hot and sweaty in a room, just the three of us and some microphones. It's important, and I think after we get episode 100 done, now that I'm technologically a little bit more capable, I think him and I are going to collab up a basically year one highlight reel and just let it go, let it roll.
Fucking A, there's some beautiful moments in that first year that of that show, I guess. We're doing Journey into Comics right now, but I'm just, reminiscing. I was a part of the first year, dude. I got to be on The Fruits of War. Recorded that in my fucking living room, and it was, the fourth podcastrophe ever, and, Dick was very green doing it and hosting it, and I thought he did a phenomenal job, and I've always loved your energy, and that's, I think, one of the things that kind of drew me to think about you as a host as well, is, like, your chemistry with fucking everybody gels, man. Like,
my secrets, I just really like to talk, Nate.
Good. I'm glad you really like to talk. That's why you're a great podcaster, bro. That's why it works perfectly. You want to speak, and I want to capture the audio of you speaking, as fucking weird and one-sided as that sounds.
I'm not even entirely worried if people listen to me talk. I just like to talk, and I don't want to talk to myself. So if I've got other people like even pretending to listen, I'll just keep going.
Oh, I totally listen to you, man. I listen to you all day. You're a great conversationalist, and I think you are very insightful, and I think that even though sometimes you do the unpopular thing to be argumentative, you also make very valid points on why you don't like certain things, and as long as you can back up where you're coming from, which you always have, your credibility across the board is just through the roof in that regard, and that's why I respect you as a podcaster. But, now that I'm done sucking your dick live on the podcast, I especially did that. Can I say something? I especially did that because I want a couple of people to know, like Mr. Dick Tyner, that, I love podcasting with Dick too. I really do. It's a lot harder to get him, though. He's got a lot on his plate all the time. I can tell that, and there's a couple other people I love podcasting with AP. He's been in fucking Africa, bro, for 2 weeks. We can't podcast in Africa.
Not realistically, anyway.
It would be very hard. His timeline and our timeline were so off. It was like 7 or 8 hours difference. Hey, man, at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to get up and we're going to podcast for you. That's going to be at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And we're going to hope that Skype doesn't totally fucking shit the bed. Mm-hmm. It barely works in the same state.
Yeah. Like barely 2 hours away from each other, and it will not fucking work 90% of the time.
It's hysterical. It's crazy how good our podcasts are, though, I think. We gel very well together for it being completely through nonsense. Like, what you guys don't understand when I say nonsense is because they're never going to hear this, man, honestly, because on their end, when they hear the finished product, it's going to sound like your end of the conversation, which is amazing, my end of the conversation is amazing, put together. But in reality, what I'm hearing right now is Tyler talk like a drunken sailor, and it's really hard to understand some of the things he's saying, but I'm kind of piecing the shit together like, okay, I kind of have it. And I'm probably talking like I'm way too high or some crazy shit like that to Tyler in his world, or some sort of weird metaphor like that. I don't know how I am to him because I can't see what he's saying. But, whatever that is, like, we have to kind of fake it a little bit and still make really brilliant conversation together, and it ain't easy.
It's hard out in these streets.
It is, man. Let's finally transition. There's something, I've been kind of feeling a little bit nostalgic about podcasting and things. I thought I would bring another thing out of the vault way back at episode 50. It's over 200 episodes ago at this point. everybody had their top 25 favorite superheroes of all time list. And that could go Marvel, DC, Image Comics, run the whole gamut. I want to make sure that that's known to our listeners before we go on this list, because as the way I see it, it's pretty one-sided.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a disclaimer out there from, at least from my list's perspective. My list is very Marvel dominated, not because DC or Image sucks, just because there are so many characters that I consider equal and I love equally that, I would have to write down 2 answers for every one of these because I cannot put them in a top 25. I have too many characters that I love to make it.
It would just be too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe we can further expand this and have you go 25 or 26 through 50 for next week or something if you're feeling froggy. But we have Tyler's list. We'll start at 25. We'll work our way to 1. I'll list it off. You can talk about why you like the character a little bit. Maybe dish on some things, go into some tangents based on these characters that you have picked here. Starting at 25, Silver Surfer. Awesome choice.
I put the Silver Surfer at the end of the list or the end of the line just because, he's kind of a character like Captain Marvel is right now in the MCU. He's so powerful and he has such an obscure role in Marvel Comics a lot of times that it's hard to put at the top of the list. For a lot of people, the awful Fantastic Four movie was their first exposure of the Silver Surfer, and that's really disappointing because it is a very.
Doug Jones looked good.
Absolutely,
as Silver Surfer,
the character looked.
But that was a shit movie.
It's just such a complex character between, his involvement or his role as the Herald of Galactus and everything with his family and, it's just, he's such a cool character, but he's also uber powerful because he is the Silver Surfer. So characters like that are hard for me to put at the top of a list because they have, maybe not intentionally, but they have plot armor,
I feel you, absolutely. Quite literally with Silver Surfer because he's made of complete steel. I see what you did there, but don't. Number 24, we were just talking about this guy earlier in the show, man. Let's talk about that Daywalker again.
He's the original Marvel bad boy as far as, our generation goes.
What was your first exposure to Blade, if you don't mind me asking?
My dad had a few Blade comics when I was a kid that when he was out of the room, I would sneak into his comic room and read when he wasn't around. But, you hit the nail on the head earlier when you referenced that original Blade trilogy. I remember watching that first Blade movie like on a Saturday morning at like 10 o'clock. I rented it from Hollywood Video. I walked in with my mom and she said, pick out whatever movie you want, just get it so we can go. And I got Blade because it was there was a guy with a fucking samurai looking sword and vampires. How could I not want to watch this?
Abso-fucking-lutely. I really love the character of Blade. We dove into that earlier. We were talking about this last week. Another character that we've been seeing frequent in the MCU is your number 23 pick, God of Thunder. Lord of Thunder. He needs the X.
Thor's a tough one for me because I like the MCU's version of Thor with Chris Hemsworth so much. I actually like MCU Thor more than I like comic book Thor.
Totally fine. That can totally influence your list. Absolutely.
I think back to, some of the early Thor comics that I've read, and they're so dry, and he's so, he's like that knight in shining armor, lawful good character. it was just, he's just dry early on. You get into, we talked about Love and Thunder later on last week, and then, you get into Old Man Thor, and then he becomes this very complex character, and, he's like I said with Silver Surfer, he's just tough to put at the top of the list. From a comic book perspective, if we were just talking MCU characters, he'd be in my top 5 all day.
Damn, that's also interesting to know. If we should do that sometime too. List our favorite MCU characters. I love that idea. Let's move on now to number 22. I do believe, unless I can't read, I think that's 22. We learned this guy is going to now be the main protagonist in the Black Widow movie, which automatically makes you more interested to see it, I believe. The Taskmaster, man. How do you feel about that? And where's your love for this character come from?
So excuse me, Taskmaster is just such a unique character. Everything that he does is cold and calculated, and he has justified hours, days, weeks, months, years in advance. Everything is set up in a way that, he is his name. He's the fucking Taskmaster. And then, I had to throw him on the list. We've talked about it a little bit the last couple episodes. But, just barely sprinkling him in the Spider-Man video game here recently, was just such a nice touch. And, in that moment that he popped up and when I was fighting him, I was like, man, I fucking really dig Taskmaster shit. So, it kind of gave... it kind of gave a little bit of a justification to go back and kind of revisit some of that stuff. And like you said, he's going to be the main antagonist in the upcoming Black Widow movie, which totally gives me a reason to watch it now. So,
Chubby. Boing. I will say, before we go too much further, let's address a little bit of an elephant in the room. For the audio listeners, you're going to have no idea this happened. But something really weird happened to you, Tyler, while we were doing this podcast. And I think it's funny if we bring it up.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we were recording. And tell us what happened. No, you tell us.
We go through Thor, and I kind of did we're transitioning. Yep, let's go on to the next one. And Nate says, he did the whole thing where Taskmaster's in the next movie and blah, blah, blah. And right when he went to say Taskmaster for the last time, all of my shit crashed at the same time. Skype crashed, Reaper died, and in my headphones, looping was Nate going, Master, 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 Master. I unplug my headphones, plug the jack back in. It's still doing it. Master, Master, Master. So I had to fucking hard kill everything to get it to stop, and luckily we can edit this and make it sound pretty and not. I was really worried that it was still recording and somehow that your looping was getting picked up on the computer. So luckily I listens back. I don't hear any of that, so fingers crossed. But yeah, it was a little bit scary because it's. It's almost 11 o'clock in my neck of the woods. It's dark in my house. Everything's quiet. And then just my ears are bombarded with Master, Master, Master. It's a fucking Hellraiser
of a fucking
shit.
Horror movie, bro. And there he was. Tyler was recording a podcast, and the word Master continually echoed into his earlobes, turning him into some sort of unknowing beast. He transformed into some sort of crazy monster and found a way through the Matrix into the screen where he attacked Nate and ripped his fucking face off and then wore Nate's face as his face and told everyone that he, in fact, was Nate.
Whoa.
And that's the horror movie.
Wowzers.
The end. Whoa.
Yeah.
You just wanted to wear my face, bro.
Sometimes you got to put other
people's
people's skin on, man. It's cool.
I'm glad you didn't do that. You're not into The Walking Dead enough to know a Whisperers reference, but that just gets me.
I know
on so
about
many
the
levels,
Whisperers,
or maybe
just
you
not-
know about the Whisperers.
Yeah,
I don't know.
vaguely.
Do you? I mean, they're an entire community of people that literally wear walker skin head to toe and smell like walkers and act like walkers and become walkers, so they blend in. But then they also let people's 14-year-old daughters get raped by every guy in the community. That really happened. The leader of the Whisperers Alpha was essentially just letting her daughter be the fucking human slam pig of the group. You know, just,
wow.
you know, just like, and it was really like, and then she gets saved by Carl, and it's fucking beautiful, and then like, you know, she's all fucked up, and he's all fucked up, and they're, you know, fucked up together.
And then she
for
becomes
a time.
Carl's slam pig.
But yeah, she does
Yeah.
actually, and she
I
licks
remember
his
you
eye
telling
hole.
me that. That's weird, man.
Yeah, that really happened. That's why I was so pissed that they killed him on the fucking show. That would have been amazing to see on TV. I mean, anyways. Let's go back to your list, bro. Man, I love number 21, and I've gained way more respect for him in more recent years, not only because of his involvement in the MCU, as you have stated, but because I've done a little bit more reading, because I got into the character of Bucky Barnes a little bit more. Number 21 on your list is Winter Soldier.
So the character of Bucky Barnes has always really intrigued me, especially because, you know, you look at a movie like the first Avenger and the beginning of that film, and I'm not just looking at this from the film perspective, folks. It's just, this is so relevant. You know, Bucky is the person that Cap wants to be Bucky. You know, he's big and he's fit, and, you know, he's got the ladies, and you know, it turns out that Bucky has to be Cap's sidekick because, you know, Cap, he's fucking Captain America. That's America's ass.
He
And
gets
then,
that super soldier serum.
you know, when you watch Winter Soldier for the first time and you see, you know, his little ninja mask fall off, and it's like, oh no, that's Bucky. You know, and then you've got this the yin and yang of Captain America is a force for good, and then fucking the Winter Soldier is Cap with a bionic fucking arm, which is way cooler than a shield. But he's bad to the bone.
Totally.
And just that whole idea of that whole
And
idea
he's
of a
not very
redemption
kind.
story, and it's just, you know, there's been some crossover comics the last couple years with the Winter Soldier that I've really enjoyed. It's just a fun character because he's not like, he's in a character archetype, but he's not constrained in that archetype. The Winter Soldier can basically do whatever the fuck he wants.
So I want to tangent with this Winter Soldier thing just for a second, because I learned something very fucking interesting about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The
Is
Disney
it
Plus
the last
series.
couple
Do you know
days?
this news?
I'm pretty
just
sure
like
I know what you're
yesterday,
talking
I think
about.
dropped or today. So the story of Winter Soldier, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, is going to deal with essentially the government not wanting
So
Sam
you've got-
Wilson as Captain America.
You've got the
gonna
government
be
basically as an
super deep.
antagonist because they don't want him to be Cap, and then you've got Zemo on top of that we found out, you know, early last week.
And Zemo breeds chaos and can also breed chaos into the government. So you really kind of have a double whammy that can almost play in tandem. It wouldn't surprise me if you learn at some point that some of the Zemo's people are in the government and are part of the
side
reason this is
tangent
happening
on your
and the way
side
it is
tangent,
happening.
little tangentception. Are we going to continue to get? Are we going to continue to get more
Ooh, love it.
fucking Thunderbolt involvement?
You know, I would like to say yes, and I think that there are great stories for Thunderbolt Ross to tell, and the Thunderbolts as a team. However, will we ever get to those? Well, is it William Hurt that plays? Yeah, okay, so he's not getting any younger, bro, and he was looking up there in his appearance, and of course they probably aged him. You know, I actually didn't even think about that. I'm actually most certain they probably aged everybody a little bit to look a little bit older if they weren't snapped, and he probably wasn't snapped, I don't think. But, yeah, man, Thunderbolt Ross has to become Red Hulk. It's got to be. I have to see that. So yes, I would love to say yes. There needs to be more involvement, and I will note that he does not make your top 25, but he's going to make for good conversation later in your list for sure. Let's move forward a little bit to kind of triple side tangent. Rhodey Rhodes, you guys know him as War Machine, number 20 on your list. Kind of a bit more of the same. Your love is more in the MCU, or is this a different appreciation for this character? Did you really like him for when he was Rhodey as Iron Man in Secret Wars and was playing Roundball Jr.?
Mm-hmm.
Really? That's awesome. That's when you first found Bucky was in the Secret Wars storyline. Not Bucky. Fuck me.
I knew what you meant.
Rhodey.
Yeah,
See
because it's like, you know, every comic book fan knows Iron Man. You know, even before Robert Downey Jr. Like, you just know it's fucking Iron Man. There's been songs written about him. I'm looking at you, Blue Oyster Cult. I mean, it's just like Iron Man goes with Iron Man goes without saying. And then you see almost an identical character, but he's got fucking guns.
He does have badass weaponry. I mean, there is no denying that he is a very cool techie, you know, God, trying to think. There was a show I used to watch where one of the characters kept getting dope-ass weapon upgrades over and over and over again. I feel like it was like Beast Wars or something. Maybe not that. Maybe it was... I can't remember. Obviously, it wasn't that good because it's not in my memory. But, like... Man, I like Rhodey as well. I think he's a great character. Let's continue down the line unless you got something else to say about Rhodey or, you know, however you want to do it. Because this next character... Actually, really, the next two characters on your list, I'm so surprised are so far down your list.
There's a lot of star power towards the top of the list, and I can't fit them all at the top of the list.
You right. Fair point. They can't all make it at the top.
Number 19.
But at number 19,
Big the Baron, fucking Von Doom.
Victor Von Doom. Dr. Doom, man. I love this villain. Big Bad to Fantastic Four. I think that's one of the most promising reasons that and like the biggest reasons I'm really excited for them to bring the Fantastic Four into the MCU is to see a proper version of Doom done.
Well, I mean, we referenced the Fantastic Four movies earlier for everything that they got wrong. I feel like between the Silver Surfer and Doctor Doom, for the most part, that they did pretty well for the time. You know, I've been pretty anti Fantastic Four for a long time. I've just never really jived with the characters other than Doctor Doom or the Human Torch. But where I really fell in love with Doctor Doom is when he became a villain for Spider-Man. So, I mean, I'm
Yes, Amazing Spider-Man number 5 is the first time that
he's
happens.
just,
yeah.
you know, he's got the brain with the skill set. You know, he's able to manipulate and outthink and just, I mean, there's just so much that Doctor Doom can do that anywhere in the MCU, or not MCU, but anywhere in Marvel, just in general, he could be a villain for anyone. And that's I think that's what I've really enjoyed, or what really made me fall in love with Doctor Doom as a character.
And I mean, I think his juxtaposition of how he feels during Secret Wars, like he kind of plays the hero role for a little bit, and then he kind of takes over and ends up becoming the Beyonder, and everything kind of goes south, you know, and everything is crazy for him. And, you know, obviously he becomes the bad. So, like you nailed it perfectly. He is amazing as anyone's villain. And that's what's promising, because he doesn't have to be confined. He can lose in the Fantastic Four movie and not be in another Fantastic Four movie until, like, Fantastic Four 6 or some weird arbitrary shit, but be elsewhere in the MCU
So,
causing
side tangent
havoc.
from Doctor Doom, Nate. It took me a minute to find it because I couldn't remember what issue
Sure.
it was. But I'm going to screen share you the image of what made me fall in love with War Machine as a character more than Iron Man.
Oh, sure, bring it on.
Oop.
Doing some screen share action here. Can't wait to see what I see. Ooh, titties.
Can you see it?
There aren't titties, folks. Oh. No, I don't
Can
see
you
it.
see it?
Oh, you did you screen?
Yep.
You're not, are you screen sharing with me? Oh, now you are. Now I just see a black screen right now. Now I see my face. Now, ooh. Damn. I love it. War Machine numero 4.
I remember walking into a comic store with my dad, and he says, "Yeah, go pick one out." And I was just fucking, you know, speed going through all the racks, and that fucking comic right there, you know, just he's locked and loaded, and he's a lot beefier than Iron Man, so he just looks more intimidating. I fucking had to have it, you know.
God, he kind of almost has like a Punisher vibe on that cover too, a little bit, you know.
Yeah, so that was it right there. That was the one. That was the one that did it for me.
Love that, bro. Hells yeah, man. Moving further down the list, we've been talking about him earlier. Villain to Venom, which we'll probably be talking about later on this list. But man, the man debuted in Amazing Spider-Man 361. You guys know him and hate him or love him. I'm not sure, depending on if you played Maximum Carnage. Spoiler alert, we're talking about Carnage here. I love him, man. Give me some insight. What are your favorite things about Cletus Cassidy? What draws you to that character?
You know, Venom is supposed to be the anti-Spider-Man, you know, for a multitude of reasons. And then you have Carnage, which is, I mean, just Cletus Cassidy is so fucking insane and so sadistic and cruel. And I mean, you go to any issue of any comic that Carnage is involved in, and if he's in the fucking public, he's just murdering people. And Spider-Man,
man, he's so brutal.
Like, once Spider-Man gets involved, he's murdering people in front of Spider-Man just because he can. And
he knows it breaks
especially
Parker.
You know, we'll talk about Spider-Man specifically a little further down the list, but like Peter Parker, of all the villains that he faces, like, how many villains just kill people in the street? Like, I mean, a handful? Yeah.
Not very many. Most have an altruistic reason for doing what they're doing, unless they're a crime boss who is literally just a crime boss. And I don't think they're really a smart supervillain or something like that. They don't have, you know. But every 90% of supervillains
Right.
have altruistic reasons for doing what they're doing.
And Carnage
They
is
think they're the
just
good
fucking
guy.
maiming and killing and causing chaos. And it, everything that Venom is supposed to be opposite of Spider-Man, Carnage is that turned up to 11.
To me, Carnage is like if Venom was watching Terminator 2 and then was like, fuck it, I'm going to do a huge line of blow right now, and just like snorts a bunch of blow, and then now he's like, fuck yeah, rage, and just goes fucking crazy and starts scything people and shit, and you're just like, whoa, bro, chill out. Like, what are you doing? Calm down. It's okay. It's funny that you put these two to side by side. I'm not even sure if you meant to do this, and we're able to kind of fluidly talk about both of them now at the same time, because really your number 17, Green Goblin, goes hand in hand with Carnage, as more recently in the end of the Spider-Man comics, they're going into 800. Spider-Man 800, the final story was Red Goblin, which was Green Goblin with the powers of Carnage. I mean, holy fucking shit, Norman Osborn empowering the powers of Goblin and Carnage all in one. It was just
And that's
chaos, And it was really a lot of what you said, He killed in the streets. Red Goblin.
And that's part of the
killed in
reason
the
why
streets.
I
He didn't give a
put
fuck.
Goblin and Carnage back to back. Not only is Green Goblin probably Spider-Man's best villain, because of how intelligent Norman Osborn is, and how technologically capable he is, and how much. I mean, he has the ability to create whatever he wants to go opposite of Spider-Man. Between just all of his tech and his smarts. It's always good. And then you take Carnage and you give him a brain, like, then some real shit's going down. I'm looking at some of the panels from Red Carnage, and wow.
Yeah, man. I mean, brutal. The character's truly brutal, and I love. Listen, Carnage for me has been a long love affair for this character, because I really appreciated him when he first was created in the comics, and I remember my buddy had the comics, and I was like, that character's fucking cool. And then he was in the cartoon, and then a few years down the road, you get to the Spider-Man game on the Nintendo 64, red cartridge, and Monster Ock is the final boss. Carnage becomes Ock and fucking goes crazy and starts destroying this building you're in, and you just have to escape. It's fucking brutal. It's awesome. But it's like, oh my god, they saved Carnage for the end. He's such a impactful character that they waited till the very fucking end. Like, that's amazing, But the thing, with Carnage also is that they've utilized him in so many different ways. Maximum Carnage, the video game. They did the comic book series. They did Minimum Carnage, the comic books miniseries. Absolute Carnage, the mini comic book series. I mean, and they're all awesome. Carnage in the USA was even a series, I do believe. Like, that's crazy. Now, your next pick, let's see, I'm going to try to do what you just did for me, okay? I'm going to try to screen share for you something, okay? I don't know if you've even ever seen this, so, and maybe you have, I'm not unsure. This is, that's, I guess, good enough. Yeah, it'll look good. Okay, so I'm going to screen share with you real quick, dude. Okay. And can you see this Spider-Man cover?
I got black screen.
Oh.
Nope. I just had black screen.
Nothing? Hold on, let me try again. Okay, how about now? I'm not good at this. Okay, I'm going to stop trying because I'm doing really bad.
I just got black screen.
Did I do it? Do you see yourself
I can see
yet?
myself and you in the top right corner.
You just have black screen?
Oh, now I see me.
Okay.
Okay, still looking at
Now
me.
do you see?
Nope, I'm still looking at a frozen image of me. Oh.
Okay,
yep,
Tyler. Look,
now I got.
if you can hear me.
Oh, yep, I see it.
Oh,
Never seen that before.
you're seeing it. Okay. This is one of the reasons I love Red Skull so much. He's next on your list. This is a cover that I hugely remember from my childhood. Amazing Spider-Man 325. I think my cousin had this issue. I actually have 2 versions of this issue. One's like right over here to the left of me, and it's a CGC graded comic. And then I have one regular version like I normally collect that's not graded, and, I can read it like a fucking human person. I won't get into that tangent. But anyways, what's your love affair with Red Skull, my dude?
I mean, it's kind of along the same lines as Carnage. He's just nuts. I mean, like...
He's super nuts.
It's hard to articulate, but like... The Red Skull has so much jealousy of Captain America because Captain America is everything that the Skull should be, but it went awry, and now he's got the red fucking skull. Like,
yes.
Is he more intelligent than Captain America? Absolutely. Does he have the same skill set? I feel like absolutely. But he's just like when him and Captain America face off, like not only does he have he has the ability to put a plan in place, but he's also got the skills to back it up when that plan falls apart. And he's got the jealousy and the hatred on top of that. So He's kind of like Doctor Doom, and I like my favorite times of the Red Skull are when the Red Skull is supporting another villain. Mm-hmm.
Yes, yep. Masters of Evil style. Red Skull and Loki have teamed up. Red Skull and Thanos have teamed up. I feel like Red Skull maybe did something with Ultron, but my brain is a little fucked up right now, and I can't really recall. I'm actually going to Google that while we're on here talking. So, what was your first introduction to Red Skull that you can remember?
Masters of Evil, for sure.
Let's see. I don't think they've done anything together, because it's pulling up some weird shit that has nothing to do with anything at all comic-related. So, I guess Ultron and Red Skull have not worked together, but that's interesting to know. Anyways, let's look now at the next one on your list.
Colossus,
who is it?
the big
at number
metal
15.
Man.
Yes, the X-Men debuting in Giant Size X-Men number 1, and then officially debuting in Uncanny X-Men 94, which was the big rebirth of the X-Men series after some shenanigans. Because, Tyler, I don't know if you know this or not, but there was a time when the X-Men comics, instead of printing new stories, they were just reprinting old comics and keeping the number system going. So there are comics in the 60s and 70s and 80s. I think it's like to 83 or something, 84. It might actually be to 94, but they're reprints. They're old stories reprinted that they told... Like, over the course of a couple of years, they did this, Yeah, but Colossus, of course, like I said, when they did Giant Size X-Men number 1, it was kind of relaunch the team, reboot the series. He's a part of that. His story gets bigger, and obviously Kitty Pryde becomes involved, and all in all, I can never say his name. Don't make me try. But I like Colossus quite a bit. Another great, he's just amazing character on your list. And actually, to just go into
he's just such a good supporting member of the X-Men.
Absolutely, hands down. He's a utility player too. He's so versatile across the board. Let's look at, to go into kind of tandem with Colossus here, also debuting at Uncanny, or not Uncanny, but at Giant Size X-Men number 1 was Nightcrawler.
Man, the moment I read a panel where he's fucking teleporting around, and then you see him on the animated series from the 90s, and he's fucking teleporting around, and he's doing his his circus act routine. Like, as a kid in the 90s, how can you not fall in love with Nightcrawler?
Absolutely. There's one of total side tangent. I think we've talked about this before, but we have a litter of outdoor cats, and I like letting these cats be of nature, and they love it out there, man. They live in their little family. They're in my backyard. They literally live their life in my backyard. They keep their kind of parameters and whatnot. They expect me to feed them. You know, it's like a cohabitation thing or whatever, and it's nice. But I've named them after the X-Men, and one of which, the only boy, is named Nightcrawler. I mean, come on. It's fucking badass. Absolutely. So Nightcrawler at 14, we both agree, an amazing character. Number 13, I like that you put him at 13. Mr. Double M, Matt Murdock himself. Daredevil, where's, I'm going to keep asking this question, so just be prepared to answer it, but we're, again, jumping into Tyler's journey into comics. We've done this with me already and talked about why I love these characters, but I'm more interested in why you love them.
Well, if you
Let's
look
talk
at
about
my
Daredevil
12
with
and
them, man.
13 on the list, they're both very, very similar. When I was an angsty
Tandem
teenager,
again, yes.
what I was reading at the time was almost exclusively anti-hero. I don't want to read the knight in the shining armor, the hero is always saving the day. I wanted to see a little bit of grit and a little bit of, the fucking hero might not win this week, like he might take an L because he's up against some shit. And number 13 with the Daredevil, you have a guy who is by all regards blind, and then has this gift to just fucking like a bat echolocate and knows where shit's at. It's so different. I mean, like, you walk into a comic book store and you're like, I want your section on blind superheroes. Like, yeah.
There's only one.
It's just, he's such a unique character. And then, number 12, I've got the Punisher, and pretty much everything that I'm saying with Daredevil can be said with the Punisher. And I'll add a little bit when we move to the next one. But for Daredevil and the Punisher, you get so much crossover with Spider-Man because they're all kind of sharing the same home turf that realistically, that's what made me fall in love with those two characters is, hey, Spidey's in some shit, and Daredevil shows up. And then they tag team it out, or the same thing happens with Punisher, or, Spidey might view Castle as a villain more than a hero because he uses guns.
I mean, he debuted as a villain,
So,
bro.
I between 12 and 13 with Punisher and Daredevil, those two characters, I feel like, have become a template for a lot of other anti-heroes in the industry, with their pretty tragic backstories and then everything that they've done in their long-running careers. They're just awesome characters.
They also have their own Netflix series for a time. One thing I want to mention about Daredevil, Punisher, you mentioned Spider-Man. I think it's interesting to note Daredevil number 1 featured an appearance by Spider-Man. Even though Daredevil hadn't appeared in any other comic, it was his literal first appearance. And wore different colors, yellow and red, not just all red. Interesting to note, too, that while Daredevil had the Punisher, or had the Spider-Man cameo in the first issue, the Punisher debuted in Spider-Man 129. So it comes full circle, just like you said. Another thing that's beautiful in tandem with Spider-Man and Daredevil, both of their 16th issues, Daredevil's 16th issue and Spider-Man's 16th issue, which I don't think came out anywhere near the same time, per se. both featured crossovers of each other. So Daredevil 16 has Spidey teaming up with Daredevil, and then Spidey 16 has Daredevil on it. And it's I mean, man, those guys, those are old school characters that I really love, and the same is to be said with Punisher. Number 11, I'm interested to know which version you have at number 11, Nova.
Well, I guess let me flip the script on you a little bit and ask you, if you were going to put Nova on your list, what version would you put on there? Bam, you got it.
Richard Rider.
I mean,
I can only put Richard Rider in a,
yeah,
in my brain.
I mean, you knew the answer when you asked me who it was going to be, because I've
I know, but I have to. Set it
anyone
up
that's
'cause it's a
listened to any of the shows that I've been on before I became full-time co-host of Journey into Comics knows how bad I fucking want, and how bad Nate and I want Nova in the MCU. I feel like Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel stole a little bit of Nova's thunder, and maybe we should have got Brie Larson before we got, or not Brie Larson. Maybe we should have got Richard Rider before we got Brie Larson. He's fucking badass. I mean, like, some of these characters, I struggle describing why I love them so much, just because, like, I remember my first exposure to the characters and why I bought those issues, or why I picked those issues out, because they had badass cover art, Like, the first time I read a comic that had Nova in it,
Yeah.
like, I didn't know who Nova was, but it had some badass cover art,
Absolutely. Drawn to it, you were just like, oh shit, this looks cool. Like, I don't even care what the story is. Let me just get it on this art level. I think that's something that not a lot of comic book fans, I maybe are a little bit afraid to admit that, but I'm glad you brought it up, because it is kind of a thing. I like buying comics sometimes based on the cover too, man. I don't care if I like the book or not.
I mean, why else would you buy an alternate other than, the cover art? I mean, there's not really any other reason to buy more than one.
I think one of my favorite things that they've been doing in the modern era of variant covers and stuff with comics, and as I look over at one right now that's CGC graded because of who signed it, I love the sketch cover variant idea. Here's a blank cover. Let any artist you run into at a con do their cover. Do what they want to do with this character for this cover. And you end up getting some amazing results, man. People who you never would expect to work on certain books get an opportunity to draw these characters, and you get to see, like, Jim Lee's take on fucking Spider-Man 2099 or some shit, and you're like, that would never happen. You would never see that in the modern era, but because of sketch covers, you get to see shit like that, because people can have shit commissioned, I have an Adventure Time #1 sketch cover variant signed by Pendleton Ward, the creator of Adventure Time. Yeah, it's fucking really rad. And I have some really weird shit too, like the very first comic, because of alphabetical, the very first comic in my collection as far as order wise is a Mindless Self-Indulgence comic. Like, the band Mindless Self-Indulgence put on a comic. I saw it one day in a comic shop. I was like, it's fucking weird. I'm buying it. Done. Strange shit like that, man. Let's move on now from Nova and the Nova Corps
real quick,
Richard Rider story. Go ahead.
I found what issue of that Nova comic it is.
Ooh, I want to see it.
I'm going to try.
Are you going to screen share me? Sweet. Hopefully your luck is more better than mine was. It's a black screen. It's a black screen. It's a black screen. I'm just going to respond how you responded. And see, and okay. Oh, mine. The Man Called Nova issue 11 from 19. Let's see, that would have been like 77 or 76.
This says,
I think.
It says this.
Is there a date on there somewhere?
This run went from 1976 to 1978.
Damn, not bad. Okay. I'm on it.
This is one of the ones that my dad has in his collection, and that's where I read it the first time. on the cover, it's got Nova basically getting fucking the shit kicked out of him, and at the bottom, you've got that contrast of the bright yellow box with the red lettering. Nova battles to the death alone against the Sphinx. And I mean
Sphinx would be a cool character to see on the
I remember
the big screen.
I remember grabbing this out of the box and I was like, what the hell is this? I'm sold, So,
yeah. Man, I'm kind of envious that your dad collected comics and you got to kind of have that experience, because my dad really didn't, and I had to discover comics as far as the books themselves in a different manner and much later and things of that nature. But
hey,
what up, dog? How's it going? Oh, look at you. There you are. Look at that face. Look at that Tyler face. As Tyler can be. Let's talk about your number 10, man. Man, we could totally fucking hoe these people and stop with the top 10 left and say, Lee, come next week.
Next time,
another
on Dragon
episode
Ball
of Journey
Z.
into Comics.
The next...
Ooh, that's one of my favorite
The
zingers.
next 5 episodes
next
are just
time
me
on
yelling.
Dragon Ball Z. Oh my god, so I saw this thing online yesterday. I want to tangent this because it's worth mentioning. It was a video, and it was a mixture of two things where some of the videos were two different clips that kind of went together strangely, like a movie clip that went together with a real-life clip where a guy would throw a ball, and right as soon as he threw it, the timing was this gif of this guy getting hit in the fucking dick with a ball, and then it just it looks like the guy in the movie threw the ball at the dick. But I know that's hard to follow a little bit, but then also they had weird sounds, people trying to make sounds, but it would sound like other things. And this kid's I'm gonna go next level Super Saiyan, and he starts going yeah, and they fucking put it to cars racing, dude, and I fucking fell out. I've not laughed that hard in a long time. That shit got me. Fucking race cars going around a track to this kid going yeah, yeah, trying to fucking saying out, man. Anyways, let's get into your top 10. Let's not hawk about. Let's talk about the man with the bow, my friend, and
Green
not
Arrow.
Legolas or Oliver Queen. Not the Green Arrow. Why not the Green Arrow?
Well,
why Hawkeye over Green Arrow?
If I was... Let's paint the scene here. I'm in a fictional... I'm in
Paint me like one of your French girls, Tyler.
Modern day city. I'm in charge of the city, and I've got unlimited capital and resources, and there's some threat, whatever, to the city. In my mind, am I going to call the Justice League, or am I going to call the Avengers? I think I'm going to call the Avengers myself.
Avengers 10-1.
So, do I
Yeah,
enjoy
as soon as
Green
you said
Arrow?
it.
Absolutely. Do I like the purple and black more than I like the green and black? Abso-fucking-lutely. And another MCU tie-in, I feel like Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye is one of those castings that we may not have felt it in the beginning, but I don't think that you can argue with it
Impeccable
now,
now, though.
especially with his performance as Ronan and Hawkeye throughout Endgame. One of arguably the best castings that they've done in the entire series. And I've always enjoyed Hawkeye because he's a regular fucking dude. He's just a dude.
Yes, absolutely. And they gave us the slow burn on Jeremy Renner's character. They've been able to develop him out more, give him more of a human side. I don't think I appreciated Hawkeye's character in the movie side of the universe until Age of Ultron. I think that's really where he blooms. That scene with Scarlet Witch, the city is flying. The city is flying. If you go out there right now, you're an Avenger. Okay, good talk. he just, all right, that was good enough. Let's go. It's time to fucking die. And here it is, man. And I was like, God, the humanity. And then that coupled with like the scene with Quicksilver is just like, man, those moments make you go, wow, Jeremy Renner, where were you? Like, where was this side of your character in the Avengers, in the first movie? To have a little bit more of that humanity when he was being controlled by Loki and being a puppet with Selvig. Like, I think it would have evolved the character, but we got it how we got it. And, of course, now you can't be any happier. To couple that, I think this is another great character that just the MCU put a spotlight on an already fantastic character. I'm interested in knowing, because I'm not sure, and I don't know if I could answer this question, but is your number 9 pick Scott Lang?
It's Scott Lang.
Or Hank Pym? Okay, let's talk about it, my brother. Let's talk about Ant-Man in the Scott Lang
I like the idea
form.
of a character who's not necessarily in their mind the hero, but they are taking the mantle of someone who was the hero. Kind of along the same lines as Terry McGinnis in Batman Beyond. Like, and that's how I
Yes.
in my mind really connect the dots with Scott Lang and Hank Pym. Scott Lang is not Hank Pym. Hank Pym would never in his mind be Scott Lang. But the fact that two of them are connected through that suit and the powers that Hank basically gave them both, I've just really enjoyed that, and I've got the MCU tie-in has to be relevant. I mean, Paul Rudd, man, as Scott Lang.
Dude, so, again, I'm on Tangent City, USA. I'm so sorry. This episode's going to be the longest fucking podcast. We were like, it's going to be a short one tonight. That's a lie. Of course, we're here together, so of course we can't just go like an hour. That's a bullshit lie. Anyways, I watched this movie with Scott Lang, fuck, with Paul Rudd. Shit, I fucked that one up. But I watched this movie with Paul Rudd on Netflix called The Fundamentals of Caring. Have you seen that? Dude. So Paul Rudd's like this guy, and he's like a dad, or he is a former dad, because his kid dies tragically. And that's like a subplot to the story that's not really that important. But what's important is he is a caregiver. He goes and decides to be a caregiver, and he starts caring for this kid who's like 18 or 19 with muscular dystrophy. And this kid's like, since you're going to be wiping my ass, how will you do it? This kid's like a real kind of piece of shit to Paul Rudd. And Paul Rudd's like, well, I would wipe your ass so that there was no longer any shit on it. And the kid's like, yep, he's the one. And then, so it's like this like buddy thing. And the kid's never left his house. And Paul Rudd convinces him, like, let's go on a road trip. And it's beautiful, dude. It's a fucking awesome movie. It's so well done. Again, Paul Rudd just killing it. And this was before he was, I think, before or right, it might have been the first movie he did right after Ant-Man. And he just hits a fucking absolute home run, dude. It's an awesome, awesome flick. Highly recommended.
No, that's fine.
I know we're tangenting out of Ant-Man, but back into it. How much Scott Lang have you
Not a whole lot.
Is
I've read a
great
couple
question.
issues, and I've read a couple of the crossovers. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick.
While you're working on pulling that up, I do want to tell you that there was the new, I think it was like Marvel Now 2015 reboot of Ant-Man. It was so good. It's a Scott Lang-centric story. He is Ant-Man. He's kind of has problems. It was around the time the movie was coming out, so there are some similarities. Cassie's a big part of it. But the cool thing is he like treats Cassie differently in the comics and lets her get little with him. So he takes her and they have like a play date in her dollhouse. And it's fucking, oh, dude, it's super, like, especially as a father and you having Ruby, you'll fucking absolutely just adore on that. Oh, The Astonishing Ant-Man. Everybody loves team-ups.
That came out in 2015.
Yeah.
That was issue 1 of that. I read that. And then if I go back here, thanks to Amazon,
Amazonia.
I read this one.
In The Irredeemable Ant-Man, huh?
That came out... I
Awesome.
don't remember when this came out. 2013.
16, I think, maybe? Oh, no. 13.
And then... Let's see if I can find it here.
Ooh, actually, if you go up... scroll up just a little bit more to the... One more. See that Ant-Man Second Chance Man? I'm pretty sure that's the story. If that's got a 2015 date below, that is fucking awesome. That's definitely the book I was
2015.
telling you about. Yeah, it is. 2015. That's the version.
Yep, I haven't read this one. It's
Yeah,
in
you'll
my
dig that for sure,
my
man.
backlog of stuff.
Yeah, see, he's in the snow globe in Miami and shit, man. Like, that kind of plays into the first issue a little bit, too.
Yeah, I remember seeing this
So.
art with him going from small to big. You know, really dug the artwork. Like, part of the reason why I've really enjoyed Ant-Man, you know,
Absolutely.
the MCU aside and Paul Rudd is like the Wasp sounds like a cool character, Yellow Jacket sounds like a cool character, Spider-Man sounds like a cool character, Ant-Man sounds like a dude who fucking gets down with ants, you know? Like, it doesn't sound like the character would be relevant when you're fighting Ultron or Thanos. Like, okay, you know, Ant-Man's not really going to be relevant. Just from his title. And then he ends up being one of the most unique characters, whether it's Hank Pym or Scott Lang, I feel, in all of MCU. Or all of Marvel, not MCU. I keep saying that.
And I got you, no worries, man. Now, this next one on your list, I want to mention, is definitely one of my favorites, so much so that I have the shoes. But let's talk a little bit about the man himself, Wade Wilson, DP.
I mean,
Deadpool.
Everything about Deadpool goes without being said, but I mean all the fourth wall breaks, the obsessions with chimichangas, and you know, like Deadpool is the king of crossover content and team up content, and in my comic book obsession, the team ups and the crossovers are hands down my favorite, bar none, no questions asked. You know, your Infinity Wars, your Secret Wars, you know, any team ups at all, those are my favorites. And Deadpool has the ability to pair with any fucking character in Marvel Comics and it be a good book.
Dude, but I mean, beyond that, though, and I agree with you fully. I agree with everything that you just said. I don't want to take away from that. Like, he pairs so well with everybody. You've obviously got Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe. Deadpool kills Deadpool. You know, things of that nature. But then you have to think that the character is so almost godlike, omnipotent in some ways, that they were able to pull off a 4 or 6 issue, and I'm not sure, you'd have to look it up, but there was a miniseries called Deadpool Killustrated, and it was him through all major works. Like, the first book was him in Moby Dick, and like how he would handle Moby Dick. And it's dude, it's so funny and ridiculous. Like, and the covers are absolutely astounding. The Killustrated covers are fucking amazing.
I'm looking at the one right now
there.
of him and Moby Dick.
But let's get into it, man. What makes you love the Pool of Dead?
Just his ability to be relevant in any story. I mean, like right here, for example, you brought up the Killustrated. Volume 3 is Deadpool Killustrated, a Christmas character, or a Christmas Carol. And it's him standing with the swords over top of Ebenezer Scrooge as the ghost of Christmas past. Like, that is fucking incredible, and that is Deadpool. Mm-hmm.
Through and through, 100%.
I mean, you have
like
you
no
have a character
asked.
that is basically, you know, you put it very, very perfect, or you put it perfectly, if I can speak like a proper human being. He's basically God. Like
You're right.
I mean, unless you fucking totally destroy him, he's not coming back. And even then, he might still come back, you know?
Yeah. I absolutely agree because he's like an endless character. Another thing that's really interesting to note is he's so versatile. It's almost ridiculous to say this, but he could show up in a DC comic, and it would kind of make sense. Like, multiverse,
Yeah, I mean,
Deadpool's going to be in one of them.
Even if he's got a black and orange mask
You know?
and his name is Deathstroke, I mean, it doesn't matter either way.
But that's the funny thing is have Deathstroke and Deadpool face to face. You know how hysterical would that be? It'd be amazing.
I thought they did an issue
just to be
of
so
that,
meta about
a
it.
couple years ago. I thought
Really?
that they did.
You might know something that I don't know.
But maybe not.
Well, we're gonna find out. Is what we're gonna do. I will say we're gonna revert back to the list here in a second because we're gonna change it up for a second, you guys. It's been a very Marvel-heavy podcast on this day. And we're going to change it up just a little bit, okay? We're just going to change it up just a little bit.
Lead us in, Nate.
We are talking about for the, let's see what spot, 7th spot. We're almost to the final 5. Holy shit. Took us this long to get one. You haven't had Batman. You have not had The Flash or Superman or Wonder Woman or Aquaman or Cyborg or Lex Luthor or Bane or the Joker or the Riddler or Catwoman Penguin. Any of those characters at all, the first one you have, and I must know why.
It's all about
The
the
Lantern
emotional
Corps.
spectrum that based on what emotion controls you is where you would end up in the Lantern Corps.
Ooh, yeah, that's beautiful. It is awesome.
I don't know.
Where would you end up?
I think I would probably be Sinestro Corps or Yellow.
A Yellow Lantern.
I mean, it just depends. I mean, but
Yep.
But the whole idea
Sinestro
of
Corps for
having the whole idea of having this ring that gives you the power to create basically anything that you want, and then your moral compass is what emotion you most closely associate with, and then that dictates like what your entire core of people, how they interact with every other living thing in the universe. It's such a unique concept.
See what you did there.
You know, like just to go down them, you know, the White Lantern Corps, it's all about life. The Red Lantern Corps, the Sinestro Corps is about rage. The orange is avarice, yellow is fear, green is willpower, indigo is compassion, violet's love, and black is death. Like, each one of these emotions is not black and white. It's not cut and dry. It's not, you know, it's not set in stone. Like, if you look at red, which is rage, the emotion of rage encompasses so many emotions, you know, thrown into a pot and fucking boiled on high, and it's just, you know, and there's so many different characters in all the Lantern Corps that are unique and powerful, or may not be
Absolutely.
super powerful, but they're totally relevant to the story no matter what. That's just, it's some of the most, how do I want to phrase it? It's some of the most unique and individual writing and character concepts in all of comic book history, in my opinion, especially for DC. I mean, with Marvel, you've got the Nova Corps, which a lot of people would say, well, that's just the Lantern Corps. But it's not the same.
Totally different. Definitely different. Did you know what the most powerful weapon a Green Lantern's
no.
ring could ever make is? I do. I'm about to tell you. It's the Golden Girls.
Okay.
They did that on an episode of Teen Titans Go. Beast Boy gets Lantern's ring, and he uses it to summon the most powerful weapon that
Okay,
the Lantern
I dig
Corps
it.
can create, and it's the Golden Girls. Me too. Let's move into number 6 here. Magneto.
He's the original. He's the OG. He's arguably the best villain in the X-Men besides Apocalypse. And even then, Apocalypse isn't as good a villain as Magneto, in my opinion. Well, and he's
Magneto
just
has
lingering.
so much more depth.
He's always there. He's always a thorn in the X-Men side. He's much like a lot of the other villains that we've talked about on my list. He's always pulling the strings somewhere. He's uber intelligent. He has a unique power set that no one else really has. He's the guy. He's the villain in the X-Men, and that he's got to be in the top 10. I would have liked to put him in the top 5, but I couldn't squeeze him in there.
Your top 5 is jam-packed, bro. And actually your top 5, the first one in your top 5 really goes hand in hand with Magneto, because one of the biggest threats to his existence was Magneto. And number 5 is Wolverine.
Much like I said with the Lantern Corps, Wolverine is all about rage, man. Like if you get into like the primal stuff with Wolverine, he's especially like the Berserker stuff, like claws are out all the time. He's fucking always yelling, and I remember seeing a cartoon, mid 2000s, that was Thor versus the Hulk, and Loki basically mind controlled Banner and made him permanently turn into the Hulk, and he beat Thor within an inch of his life, and then fought Wolverine, and he ripped. And this was a comic. It was a comic too. It was Wolverine versus the Hulk, but I obviously don't remember what issue that is. Yep, but
I have all 4 issues, by the way. No, literally, Wolverine versus the Hulk was its own miniseries,
and in the
1 through
cartoon,
4.
if I remember right, Hulk rips Wolverine in half, like straight. You're half now. You're no longer alive, and he pulls through it. Having the gift of basically immortality with his healing factor, and then you throw in those adamantium claws. Just talking about Wolverine, and this is part of the reason why he's in the top 5. How many debates do you think nerds like you and I have had where what's stronger, adamantium or vibranium? They're in the same universe. They've got to interact at some point. Could Wolverine cut through Captain America's shield? To be a character that is talked about that much, you have to be in the top 5. And he has one of the most in-depth stories of any characters in the X-Men.
Absolutely well said. Wolverine also first appears in Incredible Hulk 180, and then again in 181. Important that their back history is together. He becomes a totally different character after that, though. They did a little 4-part miniseries with him. Decided to give him his own series to spin off. As that's happening, they decided they want to put him into the X-Men, and it's a whole new change, man. And Wolverine is synonymous with that, But you said it. Some of my favorite comic book stories of all time. Here, honestly, I'm going to list them to you right now. These are like some in my top 10, but I don't know where you'd list them. But like Old Man Logan, the actual comic, Weapon X, and Origin. I don't know if you've read the Origin story, just Wolverine Origin. It's fucking incredible. For those of you out there who have not read it, it's a totally different spin. It's absolutely amazing. I definitely highly recommend it. But hey, man, we've kind of talked about this a little bit before, Yellow Sea Lion. Because your number 4 happens to be a web slinger, just not the one that I would have ever expected you to pick, at least not
Ben
initially.
Reilly, my man.
Let's bring him up. What do you say?
That
Scarlet
homemade
Spider, he's so
fucking
pretty.
suit that he had. When I was a kid, like the first time I saw the Scarlet Spider, I was like, it's total contrast versus the regular Spidey suit. It's totally different in every way. And it's got the
Absolutely.
big, like the obnoxiously large eyes, and then you've got that like teal or light blue, like cut off sweatshirt. So it's kind of like angsty. It really vibed with me when I was getting to be a teenager. And then you get into the whole clone storyline of the Scarlet Spider and with the Jackal, and Peter Parker hangs up the suit and Ben Reilly becomes Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be the Scarlet Spider, he just wants to be Spider-Man. And then in the end, he dies, and it turns out that Ben Reilly was the real Peter Parker the whole time. And that, like,
Yep.
that twist of, hey, you're a clone of Peter Parker, you're the only perfect one, and then at the end of that story, he was really the real one the whole time. Like, that is one of the best. That is one of the best twists in Spider-Man, for sure, in my opinion, ever. So,
Agreed.
I mean, I love, as much as we've talked about this, I love Spider-Man in any rendition. I mean, Scarlet Spider, Spider-Gwen, 2099. I mean, however you want to sling it. But
Ooh, I see what you did there.
When I really got into Spider-Man, Venom is really what got me there first. But then when I started to dabble more into Spider-Man, I mean, Ben Reilly really did it for me.
Yeah, he's an amazing addition to the Spider universe. I'm trying to pinpoint when he debuted. It was Amazing Spider-Man. God,
but
140 something, I think.
But
Now
with the Scarlet Spider and Ben Reilly, there's so many spin-off series, and then when he originally came into the Spidey comics, his arc was supposed to be so short, and fans liked the Ben Reilly story so much that they actually extended it. I think 4 or 6 issues initially, before he transitioned from the Scarlet Spider into wearing the regular Spidey suit. It's just like, I'm going to screen share this with you real quick. Like, this image, this cover art is so iconic for Spider-Man. He's doing the regular, a traditional Spider-Man pose, but just everything that's going on with the webs and his pose and then the font above him. I mean, it's so iconic. It's hard not to really dig all the Ben Reilly stuff, for me anyway. Can you?
Absolutely.
Can you see it?
I fully agree with you. One thing to note, and I do see that. Oh yeah, it looks awesome. That's Web of Scarlet Spider, great series there. I think that was like late 90s, early 2000s or something.
It only went for
1 or 2.
Yeah, it only went for 1 year. It was 95 to 96.
Oh, okay. But yeah, Ben Reilly first appeared as Peter Parker's clone in Amazing Spider-Man 149, October of 75. Of course, he also appears as Scarlet Spider for the first time in Web of Spider-Man 118, as Ben Reilly in Spider-Man number 51, October of 94, as regular Spider-Man in Sensational Spider-Man 0, and then apparently as the Jackal in Clone Conspiracy number 3, December of 2016,
read it either, but
which I have not read.
Read an article about it a couple weeks ago when we did the Yellow Sea Lion stuff.
Nice. All right, let's get to your top 3, man, and we'll get ourselves out of here. I don't know the answer to this. Go ahead and talk about number 3 on your list. He is the Spirit of Vengeance, Ghost
That
Rider.
sets it up right there. I mean, that is 100% why I like Ghost Rider. This idea of like Johnny Blaze making a pact with the devil, you know, in whatever iteration you want to go Ghost Rider with, getting these powers from something otherworldly to then be a slave. It's just like, you want to talk about anti-heroes with Deadpool, Deadpool and Punisher and Daredevil. Like, Ghost Rider is hardcore anti-hero. And like, you know, here recently they announced the Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider TV show, which I hope is really, really good. Get rid of that stupid car, give the man a motorcycle. And I mean, the Ghost Rider stories are just unique. I mean, you look at Cosmic Ghost Rider and traveling back in time to kill Thanos, and then he actually raises Thanos as his child, and like, Ghost Rider, it's different. You know, it's more, it's one of those that's a little bit more adult, kind of like Blade and then the rest of them that I mentioned. And, you know, much like a couple other characters I mentioned, like, the crossover material is just fucking fantastic.
Absolutely, man. The crossover material for Ghost Rider is great, but then there's an even deeper layer to the character, kind of, because he is kind of constantly tormented. You know, he gets what he wants in the power, but he has to do the bidding of Mephisto, and in doing that, he's constantly at war with himself. And I think that's a testament to that character's complexity, that he is never at peace. You know, it's always bumping heads. I almost said bumping uglies, but that's not what I meant to say. But yeah, like just the head bumping of everything with that character internally makes everything externally even that much more powerful. You know, because when he does stand up and fight against the things they're trying to make him do, you know, it elevates him tenfold, I think. But I want to say, I think it's not really that much of a surprise, but it's kind of a surprise. Your number 1 and your number 2 picks, also considering that dope-ass pop vinyl I gave you as an awesome gift.
Well,
being
before we get to that
combined.
I was going to bring that up before you did. I was supposed to be screen sharing right now, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider Venomized variant cover where it's a fucking Venomized Ghost Rider on the hood of Robbie Reyes' car.
Whoa.
And the chains are all fucking symbioted out. It's one of my favorite my favorite covers in all of comic books ever, you know, for a lot of reasons. But number 2, I've got the big green machine, the anger and the fury, the big bad Hulk.
Hulk, strong, and Hulk like fire. Thor like
Hulk,
water.
big fire. Thor.
Hulk like raging fire. Hulk like big fire, smoldering fire.
Man, like, when I was a kid, and I, like, you know, when you're a kid and you're playing with your friends and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna be Superman, and I'm gonna be Batman, and I'm gonna be Hulk. Well, why? Well, the madder he gets, the stronger he gets, and there's basically no limit to his power, and all Hulk has to do to kill Superman is get more mad, you know? Like, I mean, like that sold me early on, and, you know, much like the theme of a lot of my stuff is the crossover content. Hulk has been one of the best supporting characters in Marvel Comics ever, and probably, you know, my top 5 favorite series ever with Planet Hulk. I mean, that is just such that is such a fucking incredible story. And, you know, obviously lent itself for a lot of influence with Thor Ragnarok. He's just, like, you take this wimpy dude who becomes this hulking mass of anger and smash. And I feel like for a lot of young kids, Hulk shows them that they could be more than just, more than just a, I had a burp and I didn't want to do it into the mic.
All right.
But, you know, you can be more than what you think that you are. And I think that's, you know, at its root, that's the whole Banner storyline, that what you are on the outside is not who you really are, you know.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. And that's, again, the battle within is so much deeper for Hulk, just very much similar to Ghost Rider and his story. But Hulk, you know, the thing that I think really I appreciate about that character is he becomes super aware of himself. And he knows what he does, and he knows what he's capable of, and he becomes afraid of himself. And it becomes, I mean, it's not even so much the monster coming out to play and being more angry and fighting more to win. It's that he doesn't want to do that. He would rather not do that. If it killed him, he doesn't want the Hulk to have to come out. And, of course, we see kind of the imbalance of that where he comes out tenfold as, you know, Hulk, and the payoff from Infinity War of him not coming out. You know, we get a much smarter Hulk in the MCU. But, you know, the comics have done all kinds of crazy things with Banner. They've had him die. They've had him resurrect. They've had him become a different version of Hulk. I mean, there's like... Amadeus Cho also is Hulk. There's also Hulkling. I mean, there's She-Hulk. There's all these other stories to tell. Red Hulk, I mentioned it earlier, but, you know, when you look at it, the most complete version of that story is always going to be Bruce Banner. And one of the first comic book characters I ever fell in love with was Bruce Banner, absolutely.
You hit the nail on the head.
All right, let's go to that number one, my brother. And then I actually have a... I don't know where it went, something that just broke, some comic book news that might have broke. I don't know where it went. Oh, that's what I was going to talk about. Okay, yeah. So we'll do that after. But your number one on this list, and we talked about it very early in the podcast, so it's cool that we're coming back and wrapping ourselves full circle yet again. It's the Circle of Life.
Thank you for that.
And at number one, you're very welcome, is Venom.
I remember, before I was even into the character, walking into a KB Toys when I was a kid. You know, it was around the time of my birthday, so I'm picking out stuff, you know, that my family, you know, tell me what you want for your birthday kind of thing. And I'm walking down the aisle of all these action figures and, you know, oh, there's some Star Wars toys. Those are cool. And I got to this super detailed, like, super posable Venom action figure where the jaws are super wide and, you know, the tongue's like fucking 3 feet long. And it was just, you know, he's got like the claws and he's all muscled up. And I remember looking at that, and I remember that thing was like $30. And in my mind, I knew that I knew there was no way that I was going to get it. And I told whoever I was with that that's what I wanted, and I remember getting it on my birthday. And from that moment on, like, that toy is what, you know, that toy and then the animated series, the Spider-Man animated series, obviously, those two things together made me fall in love with that character. You know, Venom is such a pivotal part of what and who Peter Parker inevitably becomes. You know, Black Suit Spider-Man is a lot of people's favorite Spidey. And then you take Venom, who is Eddie Brock, the symbiote, and Peter Parker all mashed into one. and it's full of rage, but it's a little bit smarter now because the symbiote has spent some time with Parker, and it knows his tricks, and it's got some new abilities, and it's just like anything that Venom wants to do, it's going to do. And you read a book like Secret Wars, and the Battle Planet, and the symbiotes being involved, and like there's just, I've talked throughout this list how, like, all these complex characters, and like for me, Venom has that special place in my heart, and he is the most complex character because it's not just the symbiote, it's not just Eddie Brock, and it's not just Peter Parker. It's everything that symbiote has ever interacted with that has influenced how it is influencing Eddie Brock, and that includes Spidey for sure. And from Venom we get Anti-Venom, Carnage, Riot, and then the rest of that squad. What's the one that splits off of Carnage? That Toxin. Thank you. Like
Toxin.
You have this character that at first glance might not have been very important to the overall story of Spider-Man, and you look where it's at now, and you have all these symbiotes that have split off of Venom and Carnage, and they all have their own unique stories to tell, however big or small. And I mean, just that fucking ripped, muscled body with its unique spider logo on the chest and the back, and he's not just web slinging, he's smashing into buildings, and he's, as we saw in the movie, however you feel about it, he's fucking biting people's heads off and doing all this gritty shit. But then you have all the Lethal Protector, the anti-hero stuff, where the symbiote and Eddie Brock actually give a shit about people. And then, there's the Flash Thompson stuff, and just like, I don't know. I love this character so much. It's really hard for me to pick between 1 and 2, between Venom and Hulk, because in the beginning, those two characters were, those were basically the bro squad, Like, if there's something that needs smashing, they're going to smash it, And Venom's probably going to eat it. But, yeah.
Man, I love your list across the board, all the way across. We're going to do a speed round now real quick, Tyler. Go ahead and read them from 25 back to 1. Tell them real swiftly what your list was, just in case somebody maybe tuned out for a few minutes and now they're coming back into the conversation.
Okay, I'm going to start at 25 and work backwards. Silver Surfer, 24, Blade, 23, Thor, 22, Taskmaster, 21, Winter Soldier, 20, War Machine, 19, Doctor Doom, 18, Carnage, 17, Green Goblin, 16, the Red Skull, 15, Colossus, 14, Nightcrawler, 13, Daredevil, 12, Punisher, 11, Nova, 10, Hawkeye, 8, Ant-Man, 10 is Hawkeye, 9 is Ant-Man, 8 is Deadpool, 7 is the Lantern Corps, 6 is Magneto, 5 is Wolverine, 4 is the Scarlet Spider, Ben Reilly, 3 is Ghost Rider, 2 is Hulk, number 1 is Venom.
Man, like I said, I fucking love that list. Thank you so much for doing that and enlightening us on your top 25. I feel like now that time has kind of passed, maybe we should be all super nostalgic and shit and redo getting people's opinions on their top 25 and make a new top 50 list. It was a long, arduous process I had to go through. I literally took everybody's top 25s and put all the names down and tallied out who had each amount of votes or was on however many people's lists. And whoever got the highest votes ended up being the greatest superhero according to the Journey into Comics at the time. And it was Batman not winning, but Spider-Man winning because he was on every single list. He's the only character to be on every single list. Batman was a close second, although he was on a lot of people's number one list. Anyways, here's some late breaking for you. It has been teased and rumored. Marvel has one more Phase 4 announcement to make. They're saving for D23.
Okay.
What do you think it could be? Do you have anything, when I said that popped into your head like, oh, shit?
See, it's hard to say because it could either go like a total one-off by itself movie, or it could be shit. I don't know, man. I think at this point it could be anything. What are you thinking?
I know this is going to maybe sound hasty, and maybe some people are going to go, boo, we don't want to hear it. I honestly think we're going to get the announcement for the third Spider-Man movie now. Just to confirm it, mainly because, look, you know it's going to happen. They just made $1 billion with this last movie. You're not doing a third one. You might just get it out of the way. And if you're not doing that, you got to do something that's so impactful that when you announce it, it makes sense that you saved the announcement for this. Like, you know, they keep saying, like, oh, we might not bring the X-Men in for a while. We might not bring the X-Men for a while. They were just, you know, a big flop on the big screen. We don't want people to have that bad taste in their mouth and not come see our movie or whatever. But they haven't said a fucking word about the Fantastic Four, so maybe Phase 4 will feature the first family, the Fantastic Four.
I dig it.
I mean, at least my hope. I mean, you know, you look at their, you know, and even Kevin Feige said, like, they could have announced the next 5 years, and they didn't. So, you know, they've got a lot of big stuff planned, man. He knows exactly what they're going to do and what's coming, and it's just a matter of time as fans. But, Tyler, I think that's going to do it for today, folks. As always, check out the Journey into Comics podcast on the Journey into Comics network at journeyintocomics.com. Get us on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher Radio, Google Play Music, Spotify, CastBox, TuneIn, and many others. Just search Journey into Comics network. And now, check this shit out. Hey, Alexa, listen to Journey into Comics network. That shit works. She'll play us. It's fucking amazing. It works. I did it. It was cool. I can't believe it. Thanks, TuneIn, for getting us on Amazon and being able to be heard on all the Alexas that just woke up. And anybody listening to this, like, oh shit, my Alexa's freaking out now. I'm playing the shit that's on my phone. What the fuck? Wasn't expecting to do that, man. What the fuck? But Tyler, thank you so much for joining me again, my man.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Nah, man, it's as always a great conversation, especially considering I just want to tell folks the truth. We did not have a plan for today's episode. There wasn't really a whole lot of news that broke, so this was just us kind of bullshitting, and look at us going 2 hours and 30 minutes, folks. We hope you've enjoyed this extra crispy, extra long episode of Journey into Comics. It's been, you know, JIC 254. He gets down with ants. I have been your host, Nate.
I'm Venom.
Ooh, I loved that. Fuck yeah. And as always,
Pop your caps back and fill your brains with shit.
Later.
later, guys.